Season 3 is here. Rose Calipher. Oh my gosh, bro, I can never pronounce this. Rose Calipher is officially open, and a lot of new players are booting up Zenless Zone Zero for the very first time. And listen, even if you started during the last couple patches and you're still trying to find your footing, I promise you can still get something out of what I'm about to say. Now, just in case it needs to be stated for anyone tuning in, obviously play the game however you enjoy it, whatever that may look to you. This video's purpose is purely for the type of player that wants to have fun with their journey and efficiently reach the end game without walking into a dozen problems they weren't ready for. Trust me, doing the work to unbrick your account is way worse than just taking a few small steps to get it right the first time on your journey. That out of the way, let's get started with today's video. Are you tired of losing? Are you tired of losing those 50-50s to bullshit? Well, don't worry, big dog, I got just the deal. Let me show you a popular website that helps gamers buy more for less. Not only can you score games for less, but they've also gotten a partnered top-up services, meaning you can buy your pulls cheaper too.
Oh, that's nice.
On top of that, Aniba offers something else I haven't seen any other site do: a 10% cash back with each purchase. Now I get cheaper pulls and my money back. But wait, there's more. Using my link in the description box will get you all set up to start saving more money today. Now get out there and go pull that new character. First up, let's talk about what I believe is the single most important tip for everyone right now. Pick a top tier. Yes, that's something that I borrowed from fighting games, but let me break down what I mean. Pick a top tier doesn't explicitly mean only look at tier 0 options. It means pick an agent you want to mainly play and make sure that agent is strong or versatile enough to carry you along for the next bundle of patches. Why? Because the story will allow you to build up to 2 entire teams that are in-game ready without overexpending any extra resources. And funnily enough, because of Season 3 specifically with Pyroius, which we'll talk about later, you can technically build 3 complete in-game teams. But again, we'll get there in a bit. I'm going to talk about team comps in the next tip, so let me finish this one. In order for you to maximize this decision, there are 3 major factors you need to pay attention to. Who is currently on the banner when you start the game? Right now we have the characters Valina, Yeshun Wong, Norma, and Suna coming right after that. The second one is going to be what characters do you have access to for free? And so currently off the top of my head, we're going to make some notables here, being Pyroius, Sokaku, Nicole, and Korin. Korin really isn't that notable, but she's free, so whatever. Anyway, and what did you get from your standard S rank selector? Both of those are a part of the second little point, by the way, because that is important. Your S rank selector, not the one that you might get for free in season 3.1 or version 3.1, but the one that you get for the 40 pulls. The third and final major factor is going to be what characters are coming in the next patch or 2. So as of right now, Remiel and Sigrid, that's the horse girl with the big booty. They are coming out in the next patch. These 3 are what determine your top tier. Now for season 3, the situation is pretty decent for new players. As I mentioned earlier, Pyroius is free. You need to progress the main story or just skip and then you'll have him, his signature W engine and his M2. They also gave enough resources to build him up to level 50, which is what I was talking about earlier, with technically getting 3 free teams or 3 in-game ready teams. Now what I would recommend for new players specifically is to just dip your toes in the season 3 story right until you unlock Pyroius. Do the permanent exploration event to get the engine, which from what I'm told takes less than an hour, then go back to playing the story however you want to. The reason for this is because having Pyroius from the start of the game is huge for you, and you already have a complete free-to-play team that will carry you through the entire game and be prepared for the end game. Now you can passively work on your second in-game team without spending any premium resources. On top of that, whatever you pull from your standard S rank selector becomes your second building block. Just for a visual, I'm going to use my own free-to-play account. My goal is to save for and build towards Valina. She sets up my account for Promia and Remiel. I already have Promia, and now I'm just casually working on getting Valina. Characters built around their ecosystem only get stronger as future support units release around them. At the same time, I'll have Pyroius from the story, so my attack DPS situation is completely covered. What I'm not doing is burning Polychrome on Yeshun Wong, even though she's back on phase 1 right now. However, this would be the opposite if I chose to invest in Yeshun Wong instead of Promia. Then I would change my plan and I'd be going for Yeshun Wong and Suna and then Norma, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, you have to plan ahead, and thankfully the game gives us a built-in roadmap now to help you track what's coming up next. By following this method, I can always shift and adjust my plan without panicking. But now you might be asking yourself, how do I make sure my decisions right now won't hurt me down the road? Doesn't power creep happen at the speed of light? And that's a great question, Tom. Let's talk about tip number 2. To make this easier, we'll continue off of the previous tip, pick a top tier. Now our focus shifts to managing pool priority, building around what we currently have, and making sure we don't neglect some of the most impactful agents on our account. First is going to be pool priority. As I said earlier, my main target is Valina. She's not just the strongest new sub DPS for Anomaly, but a foundational block for the Wind Anomaly playstyle going forward. And the pool economy in 3.0 is more generous for new players. You're looking at roughly 145 free-to-play pools if you clear dailies and you don't sleep on the events. That's more than enough to guarantee a character from scratch and still walk away with a bit of pocket change. Here's where the decision tree comes in though. If you want to build around Valina long term, you want to build around what you have before getting Valina. So in my case, I have Promia, but that was a patch ago. Somebody else might have Arya, and that was 3 patches ago. Now, thankfully, Valina's banner has the perfect A ranks to get you going. Piper is by far the most notorious A rank anomaly DPS that's rivaled in S ranks value for over 2 years. Getting her and potentially more copies plus Valina is huge because now you have a strong free-to-play option that will only get stronger once you grab Remiel. Plus, you can save and not have to worry about another S-rank DPS like Promia or Arya until you're ready for it. The second agent on the banner is Nicole, who is still one of the best supports in the game. In fact, better than some S ranks and works practically on every team. She's definitely worth building regardless of your opinions. This plan also makes it so you don't need to depend on a Yuzuha rerun, who unfortunately was bundled with Arya's banner. If Wind Anomaly isn't your style and you'd rather build around Pyroeus as your primary DPS, Norma would then be your next priority. She's a fire stun agent designed specifically to create those stun windows where your damage dealer gets to go bonkers. She comes in phase 2 alongside Suna, so you've got time to plan around that. Next, what's actually on the account, you would have Pyroeus from the story. Anby is the very first character you get, and she's still a solid A-rank stunner. You know what? Actually, hold on. Just to speak on Anby for a moment, please don't listen to anyone telling you this character is bad. She's obviously not dial in, but she's not supposed to be. Anby's job is to smoothly introduce you to the combat mechanics in the game while being a decent sub DPS option for early game and a great stunner up until end game. Unfortunately, if you're starting the game within season 3, you've already missed the free Zhao they gave out earlier this year and the free Haramasa from last year. However, version 3.1 is right around the corner, and it's more than likely we'll get another free S rank selector just like last year. Expect it to be standard, but who knows, maybe they'll surprise us. Overall, most of the effective beginner-friendly characters are still here. Anomaly, attack, stun, doesn't really matter. The foundation is already covered. With all that out of the way, we can talk about resource management next. Too many players make the mistake of rushing through the game in order to unlock the end game as fast as possible, just so you can get that sweet extra polychrome, which honestly, it's not really a lot because you can't beat it, but whatever, we'll talk about it. This is a stupid decision for 99% of players. Why, you may ask? Because it's one of the main reasons players keep saying they can't build free teams. They don't have enough resources to do X, Y, and Z, or they blame the game entirely for them never having learned how to do things the right way. The game is naturally designed for players to take their time, or at least a reasonable amount of time, to progress through the proxy levels and the story so that each player can properly build their teams without feeling rushed. This is one of the most prominent reasons why I constantly keep saying that players should naturally have 2 teams that are in-game ready by the time they reach around proxy level 50 or so within their account. But what does all that mean for resource management? It means don't waste resources and time on agents that are not part of the plan. If you're fresh to season 3, 1 day's worth of stamina in the early game lets you completely build out a character's skills, core, and engine. And because there is so much to do at the beginning of the game, your Zenny and experience farm is designed to let you invest in upgrading agents without having to use stamina to farm that stuff. A pro tip I borrowed from Genshin Impact is to level up the essentials for your main team in between your account ranks. You know how the game tells you things like seeing your proxy level needed to progress further? Yeah, max that out. Build your characters in between that and then move on to the next. For example, each of Pyroeus' core skills can be raised to level 5 before the game soft blocks you. What I'm not going to do is raise every skill level up to level 5 and waste my materials. Why? Because they aren't equally important to his output. To further explain, if you open the upgrade suggestions in the game, you can see what the game suggests for every character. So in Pyroeus' case, you can see the game shows you to prioritize his ultimate and basic attack the most, then his skill, and lastly are his assist and dodge, meaning you don't really need to invest in the last 2 skills at all and can expend those resources anywhere else. else. It also shows you which skills are worth caging versus others. Those are the only priorities. Once each of them hits the max level at that time, I move on to the next target. Within the early game, you are mathematically guaranteed to complete 2 full teams by the time you reach an in-game ready account. The game is not in a rush. You don't have to be either. Now it's time to move on to the next step, and one of the most important, learning the game. A large part of what players can or can't do in this game comes down to, again, 3 major factors. I promise they're different than the ones that I said earlier. Number 1, the player thinks they're better than what they actually are and constantly looks for excuses on why they can't do the thing. I shouldn't have to give an example for this. I feel like you guys understand what I'm saying. Number 2, their account isn't actually ready for any in-game content. When most people hear that phrase, they immediately think of character levels or putting the right characters on my team, but those things barely scratch the surface. Number 3, their environment and their sources of information. Most players don't know where to find a strong source of information that actually walks them through the questions and challenges that they're having. Sure, basic character guides exist, and how to build them, they're definitely on YouTube. But how to actually play not just a character, but the team is not something Google just readily pops up. I've said it 100 times and 100 times more. The game sucks at teaching you the most mechanical things that I believe a player needs to know for a comfortable and confident in-game clear. These 3 factors are talking points I bring up within my community all the time when coaching them through their accounts. From the point you start the game all the way up to proxy level 50-ish, you should use this time to fully grasp everything your team can do, how your team works, how to perform specific combos, which builds perform like this or like that, and especially learning the matchups your teams have against the content in the game. Season 3 also introduces the new Annihilation Simulacrum, a brand new permanent in-game arena with standard and extreme difficulty tiers. I'm using air quotes for in-game there because I have my own opinions about that. Regardless, this is exactly the kind of mode where you want to spend hours in testing teams and practicing how to play the game at a high level. You don't have to clear it the perfect way right away all the time. That's not what it's for. This mode is here for you to learn and have fun doing so. Learn what your team can and can't handle before you start raging out about Shiyu defense clears not being what you want. Learn what's possible with your main DPS if you tried a different team comp with them or a not best in slot build. Sometimes you'll find that you're more comfortable playing a character with a particular disc loadout compared to the best in slot because you feel that way. I will continue to preach this until the universe explodes. One of the most important blockades in this game is knowledge. If you don't know how to do something, you can eventually learn it. If you don't know something is wrong, you'll keep repeating the mistake until someone or something tells you otherwise. Everyone likes to treat gacha games like they require 0 thinking capacity, and that's nowhere near true. The only thing that requires 0 thinking capacity is bad faith arguments on Twitter. What makes someone believe something is easy in anything is having an absurd amount of knowledge on that subject to the point it feels like second nature. Gaining that knowledge about Zenless is also ridiculously easy when the beginning of the game is literally built to teach you. It's not the best at it, but it's trying. And if you combine that with your own due diligent research, it's even easier. The last and final tip I have for you is that learning how to optimize your gear is a never-ending process. But thankfully, this is a lot more manageable for free-to-play players than they think, and Season 3 just made it even less painful. We already covered not wasting stamina or rushing to the end game. Your account simply won't be ready for that harder content unless you've done the work and spent some money. And in that process, it's important to understand the best way to manage your disk drives. Some of the new things in Season 3 that you're going to appreciate are going to be the smart discard feature now built into disk dismantling. That's a lot. I promise you, I wrote that out and it sounded better when I wrote it, but as a game, the game helps you filter out the garbage faster so that you're not manually sifting through every single piece trying to figure out what's worth keeping. I suck at disk management. I always have people help me and I learn every single time because I'm a hoarder at the end of the day. If I see a defense piece with double crit, I'm keeping it. In fact, I'm almost positive there's one on my account right now. But with this smart discard feature, for some of you guys, absolutely use it. It's definitely worth it, but don't blindly rely on it. You still want to learn these things and understand what it is that you're looking for. You need to understand what your character's kit actually wants before you start chucking away disc. The reason for that is because the game doesn't know your priorities. The game knows what it wants to suggest, but it doesn't know what you want to do. This is why when you go into the character builder thingy, there's like a custom plan that you can make. Only you know your priorities. But yeah, And I bring up disk drives and management and understanding what it is that you're building, because this is where a lot of players permanently hurt their accounts. They slap on whatever has the highest number without reading what their character kit actually wants. A character like Ellen, for instance, who increases her own crit damage by 100% or more, probably doesn't need a crit damage disc in slot 4. But let's say you have her W engine or her Mindscape 1, which does increase her crit rate. Then all of a sudden, your build completely changes from someone who doesn't have those extra stat gains. Now you can play around with adding attack 4 or more crit damage for even bigger hits. A lot of players are basically wasting a main stat because they didn't read the kit. The mindset for optimizing gear is simple. In the early game, you do not need perfect disc. You need the right set with the right main stats. The substats will come later, and disc drives are free in the early game anyway. They just hand them out like candy. But knowing which sets your character want and which main stats are non-negotiable. That's the difference between walking through the in-game easily and Alt F4ing because Thrall whooped your ass. And with all that, I am done. That is 5. I feel like this video wasn't that long. I'm proud of myself. Anyway, get out there and set your account up right the first time, guys, before you hit the end game and have to ask Kate to fix it under pressure. Or don't and let them do it anyway, because that's entertainment for me. Regardless, if you want to stay up to date on all the tech, the combos, strategies, and whatever else the community figures out, and the things that will help you think like a better player, then subscribe. Or YouTube will literally never tell you that I uploaded. Anyway, I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later.